Our forefathers were Stone Age people. Of course, they adored the sky. They saw the little lights up there, but they could not understand the little lights. For them, it was a mystery. And there were different shapes of lights, and they had different colors. That's how astronomy started. Humans could not understand what was going up there. Of course, they realized that throughout the years, the situation in the sky will change. And then they realized also, after 1 year, it restarts again, the same continuation up there. So the oldest astronomy was miraculous. And the oldest religions probably were natural religions. They adored the moon. They could not understand the sun. But then of a sudden, the heavens opened and some beings from outer space descended. And these were the first teachers. And now the teachers taught the humans about astronomy. They teach them about the connections up there. Some years ago, for example, I was in Colombia. In Colombia, there is in the jungle a so-called secret city. Their name is Buritaca. They call it Buritaca 200 because there are 200 small rivers, and 200 means 200. So Buritaca 200, they call it the last city in the jungle. And this city is composed of several terraces, like pyramids. One terrace is smaller, composed on the older ones, and it comes up to different forms and shapes. And on these terraces, some building, not stone building, normal houses made out of wood and straw were constructed. But these houses were orientated again astronomically. For example, there is one house which they call the house of the man. There is another house which they call the house of the woman. Now, from the house of the man, there is a pillar going up from the ceiling. And from the house of the woman, there are two crossed pillars. Now, exactly on March 21st, the sun rises up and makes a shadow exactly on the pillar of the man's house, which crosses the two, let's say, legs of the women, which means symbolically, it's springtime, you have to put the seed into the earth. But it all works by astronomy. They were sure that the whole universe has to do with God. Of course, the natives there, they are called the Kogis. And the Kogis had their teacher from heaven. The teacher told them the important things about astronomy. And not only this, the teachers also told them about the coming flood. Like in the Bible, they told them you must construct a ship to be saved before the great flood. Now in all these cases, constructing a ship, be it in the Bible, Noah, be it at the Kogi up there in Colombia, which is far away from the biblical stories. In all these cases, it was not just a miraculous God who by shake hand or making this, here is a ship. So, like a miracle now, they always used technology. Constructing a ship is technology. And constructing a ship means you need some time. It's not the story of the great flood that simply somebody told them it is coming. They knew in advance, and at least 1 year in advance, if not more, that the great flood would come. Otherwise, you have no time to construct a ship. So who were these beings who knew in advance that the gigantic flood would arrive? Here again, we end with extraterrestrials. They had the knowledge seen from outer space. They knew what was coming. They knew, for example, that it is possible that the pole would change, the magnetic pole would change. They knew it in advance. That's why they give some of the human group time to construct the ship. In old Sumeria, there is a so-called King's List. The King's List is today in the British Museum in London. There you can read the oldest kings before the Great Flood, and then the flood comes, and the King's List say, and after the flood, the gods descended again from the sky to the human. The same situation we have in Colombia. These Kogi, if we've seen it from a technical point of view, they would be primitive. These Kogi knew about the great flood. They constructed a ship. And again, in the Kogi mythology, they say, after the water disappeared, the gods descended again from the sky. The same situation like in the Sumerian legend. I have studied so many myths and legends, and practically every old culture knows about the flood, including the Maya, for example. Or you go to Greek mythology, there we have Plato, and Plato speaks about the great flood which was coming. Now, Plato had no contact with the Maya. The Maya were living in Central America, and they all have the same stories because it was a great flood. And all they have the same story, say that a god was coming from the sky, was warning them, give them time to construct the ship. And after the flood, when the water disappeared, the gods descended again from the sky. Humans, some thousands of years ago, they were taught by extraterrestrials, and the extraterrestrials told them, please make this monument astronomically. I was just a few months ago, I was in Indonesia. And in Indonesia, there is a place with the name Gunung Padang. It's in the jungle, nobody practically was there. And archaeology says this place must be 23,000 years old, very, very old. And the whole place is composed of really 10,000s of stone blocks. They are volcanic, of volcanic origin, and we call them basalt. The material is basalt. It's very, very hard. And we have no idea who transported all these blocks up to that place. Now, 23,000 years ago, it's very, very long. There must have been teachers. Or another place, Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe is in Turkey today. And Göbekli Tepe is again one of the very, very old places, dated at least 11,000 BC. And we have no reason why somebody made some stone structures in Göbekli Tepe. I have a speculation why. Because today, Göbekli Tepe is very near. It's about 10 kilometers away from the place where our progenitor Abraham was living. And Abraham again was writing about extraterrestrials. There is an old text called the Abraham Apocryphic. And there Abraham, he says, he was sitting outside his tents, then he heard a noise in the sky. Some beings descended from the sky, and he clearly say, they were not human. And these beings tell to our father, Abraham, if you wish, we take you out of your planet. You can see your planet from upside. And Abraham says yes, and they go up there. Of course, he understands nothing. Finally, he's coming to a gigantic place which is turning always around its own axis in the orbit around our planet. And Abraham says, but I wish to fall downward to the earth. If someone wishes to fall downward to the earth, that means he cannot be on earth. And then he says, the high place on which we stood, once he turned always upside down and upside down. Of a sudden, I saw the earth up and I saw the stars down. Soon, as you are in a mother spaceship, this mother spaceship will always turn around its own axis, because by doing so, you create an artificial gravity, centrifugal force. But Abraham could not have known this. Abraham was brought up there. All what we have made, we translated it completely wrong. We said Abraham was in heaven. I'm sorry, heaven was space and nothing else. All this is important to know. So many of our ancestors were brought into the heaven. Now coming back to Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe is just about 10 kilometers away, where Abraham had his stories when he was brought up to the sky. So I suggest maybe in honor of these beings who brought him up, they created this gigantic place, Göbekli Tepe. But that's just one of the speculations. We just today know that, of course, the three pyramids are again orientated astronomically. And the three pyramids, according to modern theories, they represent the belt of the star Orion. Now, the oldest god in Egypt was Osiris, but Osiris and Orion is the same thing, even in the writing form in the hieroglyphs. In my opinion, ancient structures were made by humans, not by the extraterrestrials, but it was the extraterrestrials who guided them, who teach them, who give them the knowledge how to do it. But all the dirty job, we did it. And why have they done it? Simply for us. The extraterrestrials, they knew, of course, that these gigantic stone monuments would survive for thousands and thousands of years. So in a far future, humans will see these stone structures and they will ask the same questions as we ask today. How is this possible? Why have they made such an effort simply for astronomy, such an effort with stones, moving stones around? And then they ask the same questions which we ask now. Why have our ancestors done this? For what purpose? And that's all what you have to know, because this brings you to questions. And what we need for solutions are first the questions. That's exactly what we live today. We have the questions because of these gigantic structures. Were there extraterrestrial teachers? My answer is yes, of course. They were extraterrestrials. Because in my profession, I do not have only stone structures. I know, of course, the world mythology. I know the relations. I know the old holy books. So when you put all together, no way out, this planet, our Stone Age people, were visited by beings from outer space. They were the teachers in astronomy. And for them, our ancestors made these gigantic stone structures. I'm Erich von Daniken. Join me next time on Beyond the Legends.